Before I go any further in this list, let me tell you why wounds stick. Why does the hurt stick? How come I can't shake it? Why is it still stinging me? I think it boils down to two things. Number one is either there's a vacuum that's created because of the hurt, and since they hurt you, you isolate. So their words or their sentiments or their conclusions that they've reached about you are now amplified because you're not in healthy community and you've isolated from the injury that they inflicted on you, and the only thing you're hearing is their perspective of you. In other words, when you isolate, this is why we keep talking about community. This is why Paul kept reaching out to people. When you isolate, you don't allow yourself to get filled up by healthy people. Consequently, the vacuum or the void that's created by unhealthy people gets amplified. So I think, number one, the reason why the wound sticks is because there's a vacuum created. It's like that verse that talks about I'm going to paraphrase it, but it talks about when the evil spirit is swept out of the house, there's a vacuum created. If you don't replace it with something positive, 7 more come back. We might say in the context of what we're discussing, if you don't replace that negative statement they made about you or that negative situation with something positive from healthy community, it can get 7 times worse. Because you're just sitting there in a vacuum, just with what they did, what they said, their perception, their conclusion, just resonating and echoing in your head. So it's very, very important. But I want you to really think about this. Who or what person or what need, let's say in the context of what we're talking about, do you need to disinvest from? You know, this is so random, but this is the one that came to my mind. I remember my folks, God bless them, I love them to death. They're 76 and 78, and if you've ever met my parents, you'll the love of the Lord just oozes from them, and they just love helping people. They love helping the ministry. And this is a small one, but many of you know that our office space is in an apartment that they own. And the market fee for that apartment is a little over $2,000 a month. But because they love you guys and because they love CBMI, the only thing we pay is the maintenance. So every month, you know, my 76 and 78-year-old mother and father pass on $1,200 that they could be spending in their retirement to do what they want because they want to be a blessing. Now, I say that because I've shared that, and I'm just being totally honest. I've shared that with great pride, and aren't my parents great, and aren't they sacrificial? I've shared it, and people look at me like, so what? And I had to disinvest from the need for them to really appreciate the sacrifice like I was. Because if I looked to them, I would get demoralized. I would say, well, when was the last time you passed on $1,200 of disposable income to be a blessing to people you don't even see? And it's one thing to do it in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. It's a whole new ball game when you're in the last quartile of your life. And just being totally honest, I said, you know what, I'm going to stop sharing that because I don't like the response. I had to disinvest from the need of people to be as appreciative as I was. I'll tell you one more, and these are just 2 random ones, but every year, and now that I'm married, my wife and I, we put the first $5,000 in we call it first fruit offering. We put the first $5,000 in. Ed May will tell you in the month of January as our seed to get the ball rolling. This is our way of saying, God, we're believing you for big things. You tithe with expectation of what you're believing for, not after you've paid the bills and you see what's left over. You tithe with an expectation. So I remember I used to share that too. I used to share, when we ask people for money, just to be clear, we give our first fruit, we put the first $5,000 in, same response. People like, so what's my point? It's something that means a lot to me, but for whatever reason, it may not have meant a lot to them. But if you don't learn how to disinvest, and I use those two examples, but if you don't learn how to disinvest from your need for people to either see a situation the way you want them to see it, or to be as appreciative as you want them to be, or to be as encouraging as you want them to be, or to give you the respect or the props, you're going to be a miserable person. So I want to, and underneath the context of relationships that disappoint, each week I keep saying I'm going to bring this to a close, but I keep getting more thoughts on it. As it relates to relationships that disappoint, make your own little list. What do you need to disinvest of? Is it an explanation? I need to disinvest from my need to get an explanation. Why'd you leave my mother? Why'd you cheat on us? Why'd you lie to me? Why'd you fire me? Why'd you say you were going to do this and then you did that? Is it an explanation? Do you have to disinvest from a need to get an apology? You may not get an apology. But if you see, it's like taking a baby out of the back seat of a car, putting them behind the driver's wheel, and then telling them to get you to your destination. One of the most unhealthy things you can do is to expect something from someone who's incapable of producing it. And I think that this was one of Paul's secrets. He learned how to disinvest. Okay, Demas, he's forsaken me because he loves the things of the world more than the things of God. Okay, that hurt me because he was my running mate. He was my co-partner. But you know what? I can't allow him to steal from what's going on with Titus. Can't allow him to steal what's going on with Timothy. So again, the key is to disinvest from that need and take that need to a place that, as Ephesians 3 talks about, that's rooted and grounded in love. This is what I love about our CBMI family. It's rooted and grounded in love. I watch week after week, and what's encouraging to me now is to see second and third generations, but sometimes people will come, they'll have a heavy heart. Perhaps you can look at their face, they may be teary-eyed, there's something on them, and you'll always see somehow or another, you watch, at the end of all our meetings, someone will stick around, someone will be praying with them. Edmay's the queen of this. You get that in community, but in isolation. So I want to really emphasize this to you. If you're isolated, the wound or the hurt that the person inflicted on you is amplified because you're not receiving the love from healthy people. You're not receiving the encouragement from healthy people. And like that vacuum, the enemy loves that vacuum. If he can isolate you, their voice will resonate louder and louder and louder. And before long, it's the background music of your life. So we want to be real cautious of that. Then we looked at relationships at a distance. And we talked about the importance of don't let people be out of sight. Just because they're out of sight, don't let them be out of mind. Do your best. Ask the Lord. If you will ask the Lord, he'll show you there's some people that you need to reach out to who may no longer. And the business, it's funny, the business world gets this. It's called networking. Companies get this. They send you to our valued customer. They'll send you something. They'll send you an approved credit card. They'll send you a thank you letter. They'll send you something. That's why people are always trying to collect data on you. Tell them your birthday. You get a birthday card from Burger King. They don't want to be out of sight, out of mind. They get this intuitively, but yet it's so easy for us to not maintain relationships at a distance.